travel, if you do airplane travel, you will experience jet lag. Everybody's aware of jet lag, and some people are more sensitive to it than others. And the longer that you've traveled, the farther you've traveled, the more time zones you've crossed and have to adjust to, the more severe the jet lag typically. Acupuncture has a number of different approaches to managing jet lag depending on whether you're going forward or backward, but it uses the Meridian clock to do this. Well, the QRS, again, you don't have to specifically treat a specific meridian. Just by using the QRS, you will rebalance the meridians, all of them, basically all at once. Because sometimes it's hard to figure out which specific meridian needs to be improved in a given person. One of the ways of using acupuncture in the body, and there are many systems of acupuncture, is to stimulate the ears. I was reading one paper about stimulating the immune system in patients with cancer, and they recommended a certain specific set of acupuncture points on the ear itself. Now, that may sound somewhat serious, or suspicious rather, but if you've heard of reflexology or shiatsu, reflexology and shiatsu relies on what's called a reflex system in the feet. Well, there are similar reflex systems in the hands, on the scalp, even on the nose. The ear has been found in animal studies to actually have direct pathways to the thalamus and various parts of the brain. And it's been found that stimulation of ear acupuncture tends to increase a set of chemicals called enkephalins, which are like endorphins, but they're a bit different. And in fact, they have a shorter half-life in the body than endorphins do. But there's a very strong stimulation of the ear with acupuncture that gets to the thalamus and various other parts of the brain. So what you can do is you can actually take the pillow and, using the edge of the pillow again, put it over the ear, or you can actually bend the pillow so you get both ears under one edge. So it'd be, a big part of it would be like a hood over the front of the head, and then the edge of the pillow would cross over each ear. By doing that, you would effectively stimulate most of the acupuncture points in both ears. I tend to use ears and points in both ears when I tend to do ear acupuncture in order to keep the body in balance. Well, that all being said, again, the key thing is you can use the acupuncture system with magnetics to amplify or increase the benefit of your treatment. You can combine sort of a traditional whole-body treatment with local treatment and get even more benefit. Okay, with that being said, let me open it up to questions.
Dr. Pollack, this is Karen. I wanted to inquire about using the system with menopausal symptoms.
Menopausal symptoms. Well, in general, whether it's menopausal or menstrual, the QRS can rebalance the body in general. People may know or may not know that menopause, of course, many people are now beginning to believe is really not a natural process. It is an abnormal process, and certainly once you get into the major components or major throes of menopause and even several years after menopause, whether it's caused by removing the ovary surgically or happening naturally, menopause itself creates quite a number of changes, physical changes in the body, which become more and more obvious the longer you are in menopause. However, I found over time, using magnetic fields, is that some women enter menopause prematurely. That once you start exhibiting some of the earliest signs of menopause and start having what are called anovulatory cycles, or cycles where you don't produce eggs, then many women experience all of these hot flashes, the emotional changes, a lot of the physical changes that happen with menopause. And sometimes that can happen prematurely. Not always understood why. Stress may be an important factor, nutrition could be a factor, genetics certainly, etc. But what can frequently happen is by using the magnetic field or the QRS, by laying on the mattress pad on a regular basis, you can decrease the instability that's often caused and the hormonal fluctuations that are often caused by menopause. This may be alarming to some women, but in some cases what happens is that women start having periods again. It's not very common, but it occasionally does happen. And to me, if that does happen, what it means is that the women probably started entering into menopause slightly prematurely. Once you rebalance the energy systems of the body, the acupuncture meridians, and the hormonal levels, then what happens is periods often can start up again. Now again, many women are not that unhappy that they stop having periods, but of course the symptoms of premenopause and early menopause can be quite devastating to a lot of women. If people are having that kind of problem and the general mattress treatments, the daily use of the mattress does not help, then what I would recommend, in addition to the mattress pad, to use the pillow over the sacrum. Or you can use it over the front, depending on whether the symptoms tend to be more toward the front or toward the back. I like using it over the back because you get the sacral nerves coming out of the spine. And you can use the pillow either horizontally across the pelvis, or you can use it vertically along the lower part of the spine and see which way helps the most. By treating along the spine, what you are getting is interfering with a lot of the nerve traffic that could be part of the symptoms, particularly with premenstrual symptoms or dysmenorrhea. That can be very helpful using the pillow that way. For that purpose, I would tend to, unless people are exquisitely sensitive, I would tend to go to the highest settings. So you could do, let's say, 8 to 16 minutes of the pillow and finish it off with the mat, or the other way around. Very often I do both, either way, depending on which works best for the person. Sometimes it's better to clean it up with the QRS, especially at bedtime. Do an initial treatment with the pillow that's more local, and then finish it with a whole body treatment. In the morning, you could actually reverse it. There's no hard and fast rule with this. There's no specific scientific evidence that says this is the way you got to do it. So what people need to do is to try it both ways and see which works the best for them. Now, one of the other major issues that people deal with menopause is osteoporosis. And the QRS is par excellence with osteoporosis. One of the most important things, and I was at a conference about a month ago, given by an endocrinologist who was talking about osteoporosis and all the new therapies that are coming out for osteoporosis. One of the key things that he mentioned in his talk was that virtually all the therapies do is to slow down the bone breakdown. In other words, there are cells in the bone that help to break down bone, and there are cells in the bone that help to build bone. The current medical treatments for osteoporosis only slow down the cells that break bone down. They do nothing to rebuild the bone. The only way you can rebuild the bone before things like the QRS came along was to exercise. Exercise would rebuild bone. Now, calcium is important for rebuilding bone, but calcium by itself does not rebuild bone. So you need something to stimulate bone growth. And there is plenty of research now that shows that pulse magnetic fields help to generate osteogenesis, in other words, the generation of bone. So you can combine the QRS actually with the osteoporotic treatments and produce bone growth as well as slowing down the osteoclasts or the cells that break bone down. And there is research that shows that the QRS is able to reverse clinically demonstrated, objectively measured osteoporosis, which is also one of the things that's going on with the space program. The Russians have been exploring the use of the QRS and pulse magnetic fields in the space program to reduce the development of osteoporosis in space in cosmonauts and astronauts who go out for long periods of time. I hope that answers your question, Karen.
And that's extremely thorough. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, this is Patrick Seal. I wanted to ask, what kind of setting do you use for treatment of osteoporosis?
Okay, we could talk in general terms about sort of my approach to this. And what happens if you start reading our book, you will find that a lot of the magnetic fields that are used in the research in Eastern Europe were much stronger than the fields produced by the QRS. We are often very cautious in our protocols to be sure we don't hurt people. We start people off very slowly. When it comes to dealing with general systemic problems, particularly autoimmune problems, or people with RSD or whose nervous system is on fire or have a lot of sort of hot conditions going on in their body, I start with much lower settings. With musculoskeletal, unless somebody's got something else in their history to suggest that